calming your anxiety, quieting your mind, and activating your intuition. The missing link between anxiety and intuition, if it's spelled properly. Just a little bit about my background. I'm the owner of Charleston Hypnosis Center. Some of you have worked with me before. You're coming from a lot of different sources. So I'm going to basically give you a little bit about me. I'm the founder of the American Hypnosis and Coaching Academy. And let me close this down. And I've been at my Charleston Hypnosis Center office coaching and doing hypnosis for 20 years. Before that, I was in California. And I'm a big, passionate believer in combining coaching and hypnosis together. Coaching is fantastic and I love it. And it helps you to identify limiting beliefs and mindsets. But if you don't have a way to incorporate those new beliefs into your subconscious mind, into your automatic behaviors and thought patterns, traditional ways of coaching and even therapy can fall short. So that's what I teach at my school, and that's what I help my clients with, is to combine those two. Okay, so this presentation today is for you if you're an overthinker. If you tend to second guess your decisions, if you have a hard time making decisions, you procrastinate making decisions, if you're anxiety prone, and if you struggle to really step into trusting your intuition, but you'd like to, or maybe you even know you are intuitive, but there's just some part of you that doesn't get enough intuitive hits, or you are someone who maybe doesn't get them at all. Maybe you'll get a little further with that today. So what you're going to learn is a big piece of this. If you're really going to break through anxiety, there's some basic understandings you need to have about what it is and how it works and the nature of it, which I don't think people learn enough about. You're just told to stop being anxious, and that doesn't really work. So we're going to talk about the thinking versus the observing mind, anxiety versus perception, quieting that mental chatter so you can access intuition and make decisions from a whole brained approach, which is your left brain and your right brain, versus all analytical. And if you're exhausted at the end of the day from too much thinking, you probably aren't tapping in and being as productive as you can with your mind. Your mind is amazing and it has intuition and it has right brain capabilities that most people don't tap into because our society is so programmed to praise good thinking. So the thinking mind in action is analysis, information gathering, decision making, problem solving. And I want you to imagine it this way. And this is something different that I teach that I don't think anybody teaches, is that imagine that your thinking mind, which we might call the left brain, is reaching for information, gathering data. It's an energy reaching out, like a wave or a tide reaching out and gathering information and bringing it back, and then you're using it to analyze. That's great. You want to be able to do that. You want to have good analysis, information gathering, and decision making. But if it is your only strategy, you're probably exhausted and not using your mind as productively as you can, and perhaps even in many cases blocking intuitive problem solving, inspirational problem solving, the inventor ideas out of nowhere. Churchill, Robert F. Kennedy, all people like that, all were more whole brained. So they had great analysis, but they also were able to quiet their mind to get intuitive problem solving. So I look at it as being more whole brained. So the observing mind, as opposed to the thinking mind, is quiet, still, aware, without thinking. So it's, instead of that tide reaching out, imagine that your mind is quiet and that information is downloading into your brain. Information is coming to you. instead of you reaching for it. So when I do regression work, past life regression, or any type of hypnotherapy where we're going back in time, um, whether I tell people or not, I do tell this in past life regression, but it's like this feeling of like letting the story come to you, letting the information come to you. And that's not efforting, it's not reaching for data, it's not analyzing, it's not exhausting. So if you can let that analytical mind, which can go overboard, and we'll talk about anxiety, calm down, you have this whole other stream of information that can come to you. It comes to you. It's like when I was first starting to do hypnosis with people and I was quieting my mind enough, it was this sensation of like a funnel up there, and information was coming to me. I wasn't trying to reach for it, grab it, figure it out. And that's really powerful. So the people that are on this call today, because you were piqued by the idea of developing your intuition, or you are in my modern intuition group, I tell everyone has intuition, but if you're having a problem accessing it, it's because you lack the ability to quiet your mind. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is giving you methods to do exactly that. So calmness is necessary. I've had this quote for years. I've finally gotten to use it. This guy, he wrote this book. It is extremely difficult to read, but he called it Difficulties in Clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. And he said straight up, calmness is necessary in the mental body as well as the astral body. A man who worries can never see accurately. 1,000%. If you worry, you are not seeing life accurately. I I don't know how much more simpler to say that, but we'll talk about why that is and how important it is to break that cycle of worry and why you come by it honestly. So a calm mind gives you clearer perception. It is the foundation for clear perception, for intuition. So let's talk about anxiety today. And first, it's to understand the nature of anxiety. You may have learned it from your parents. One or both of them were worriers. In our society, we're kind of almost even cultivated to believe that we need to worry to stay safe. But somewhere along the way, if you are struggling with anxiety or have, it is because your subconscious mind perceives there's a payoff or a benefit to anxiety. It perceives there is um, a survival mechanism with it. So, and the idea is this: if I worry, I'll stay safe. That's what the subconscious mind says. If I worry, I will avoid bad things happening. I will avoid danger. So you're not just worrying or having anxious thoughts for no good reason. It is because some part of your mind believes it's a survival strategy. The thing is that for a lot of people, it's running all the time. So imagine a fire alarm going off in your house constantly, or, on a regular basis, even though there's no fire. So I ask you to think about this. If you came on this call today because you do struggle with anxiety, think about this. Think about how many hours a day typically you're awake. So subtract what your normal sleep pattern is. So if you sleep for 7 hours early, you're awake for 18 hours a day. Now ask you this: of your waking hours, how many hours a day do you spend worrying, which is anxiety about the future? Ruminating on the past, which is creating a lot of times anxiety about things that have already come and gone. But if you're in anxious thinking, you're not really present. You're not in the moment. You're projecting. Again, your mind perceives there's a payoff or a benefit because it might help you to avoid future pain or suffering. But the problem is that if that's a high percentage of your day, and when I have people come to my office for hypnosis and they're wanting to work on like certain anxiety for like flying or driving or something like that, but if you have generalized anxiety, you're probably spending more. Most of my clients are spending more than 50% of their day. They're honest and they say, I spend more than 50% of my day worrying. And if that's the case, it is a habit, again, that you've come by honestly. And it's a habit that your mind is doing because it thinks it's doing something good for you, but it's destructive. It is very, very destructive. It blocks intuition. It's that reaching, grabbing, worrying, planning of trying to avoid, and it's putting your body into continual fight or flight. That's the other thing. If you're a highly sensitive person, you're going to be sensitive to your own thoughts. So here's the big downside to it, that let's say it's even once a day for an hour that you're worrying about something you can't control, a meeting, an uncomfortable conversation, uh, a hurricane coming that you can't plan for, a war in Iraq that you can do nothing about. These anxious stories are, for most people, putting you into some level of fight or flight. Even though it's not happening, it's happening in your head. But just like a movie up on the screen can affect you physiologically, the movies in your head affect you. If they're putting you into fight or flight, that's spiking cortisol, which can affect weight loss, affect your ability to sleep at night. And it's because the subconscious mind does not know the difference between real or imaginary. The subconscious mind does not know the difference between a story you're telling yourself. It doesn't know whether you want that story to happen or don't want it to happen. If you're imagining it, you're living it on some level, and that's not productive, to say the least. So when you're having those anxious stories, it leads to oftentimes your decisions, and your decisions are maybe oftentimes based on a distorted reality, a perception of something that could happen that never happens. And, we all do it to some degree. It's like I took my tax stuff to my CPA and I was like, oh my gosh, what if, how bad is it going to be this year? And I ended up getting $8 back. But I didn't worry. I've trained myself not to worry, because we can all do that. And imagine like how often you've worried about something and that worry never came to fruition, and you've put yourself through this emotional ringer, so to speak, for no good reason. So those worries can appear as facts and threats even when they're not. So I hope I've like made this quite clear about the payoff, the benefit to breaking this cycle. And so, how do we do this? Well, you can't just tell yourself, stop worrying. It doesn't work for most people. Most people know that. You can't just say, don't think about it. So, the technique that I use in my office, I'm going to tell you exactly what I do with my clients today. And if you want to have me do it with you in a hypnosis session, I'm glad to. But if you can do this yourself, please do it. It's an NLP technique. It's something that I taught myself to do during some really stressful times in my life. And you can do it too. You just have to practice it. But what you do is, when you have a stressful story that comes to mind, when you have an anxious thought that comes to mind, you are going to say stop. You're going to stop televising it. You're going to stop gathering data about it. And you're going to imagine you pull one single photograph out of your mind that represents that whole story. So it's like the image behind the title on Netflix. You're going to imagine pulling a photograph out of your mind that represents that whole stressful story. You drain all the color out of it. You explode it, you turn it to black and white. And then the main thing is after that, you pivot. You tell yourself a story of what you'd like to have happen, or you get off topic and you think about a vacation you're going to take. You basically train your mind like a muscle to not go in the ditch, as I describe it. You say, I am not going to let my mind go into the ditch. I am, I would tell myself, like, don't go there. And if you know it's a waste of your time to worry, then this technique really, really works. Is if you understand, like, this is not the best use of my mind. This puts me in fight or flight. This immobilizes me. It can be immobilizing. Then you do this technique. And I tell you, if you do it, I have my clients where we do the recording with it, but I'm telling you, within days, you will have this eerie calm that comes over you. And as that calmness comes in and you stop this reaching, grabbing for information, worrying mind, when that starts to calm down and quiet, ideas come to you, solutions come to you that you weren't thinking of. Your mind is one vast hard drive in there, and it can't deliver up information to you from intuition or just your data bank when this mind is constantly doing this. So you say stop to the anxious thought. You imagine one single photograph, you pull it out of your mind that represents that whole stressful story. You drain all the color out of the photograph, explode it, and then turn your mind to what you want to have happen, change of subject. So I'll tell you how I did this recently. Um, I had a leak in my house, and the plumber came over in the morning and he said, well, I'll have to come back at 5 o'clock and open up your wall. It could be under the slab, it could be above the slab. One's going to be a lot more expensive. So the old me would have been worrying about that all day. Oh my gosh, what if this is thousands of dollars? And so when my mind wanted to go there, I was like, nope, stop, not even going to go there. That's a waste of my time. And it is a waste of my time because there was nothing I could do about it. It was going to be what it was going to be. So every time that my mind wanted to go into the worrisome outcome, the unwanted, the expensive outcome, I said, stop, no. I pulled an image out of my mind of the slab leak and I drained all the color out of it. I exploded it and I said, no, it's going to go better than expected. No, it's going to be a cheap fix. It's going to be an easy fix. And I made my mind go into the desired outcome. And that is what you do. And I'm telling you, I've been teaching this technique for years and it works. It works. Okay, so this is something else I teach in my hypnosis school and I teach to my clients. There's three different minds you can be in. We've been talking about the thinking mind. When it goes overboard, it's anxious. It can be anxious, but it's reaching, gathering, reaching out for data, bringing it back. So a lot of people say, well, how do I get to the quiet mind? How do I get to the meditative mind? So meditative mind isn't asleep or knocked out. It's quiet, it's observing. So for me, the bridge was hypnosis. And so this is how I explain it. You've got the thinking mind, reaching, gathering, the focused mind, like a laser. Hypnosis is actually a concentrated focus. So we go into natural states of hypnosis all the time. Don't be afraid of it. You do it every day. You just haven't called it hypnosis. So when you're running and you get that in the zone moment, you're lifting weights at the gym and you're tuning out everything and just focusing on your lifting. You're at the computer and you're focused on responding to an email and someone can come into the room and, it's kind of in the background. Or when you're in the movie theater and the person behind you slides into the row behind you, you're aware of it, but you're tuned out because you're focused on the movie, you're focused on the email. You're focused on that activity. That's the focus mind, the laser mind. And then once I learned how to do that, then it was much easier to get to the thoughts. So if you're having a lot of trouble getting to silent meditation, I would recommend you do some type of hypnosis, or we'll talk about some of the other things you can do in everyday life here. So gaining control over your thoughts, holding your attention steady, focusing on whatever you're doing, being in the moment. And it's like gathering your thoughts to that one activity is the middle step to silent mind. And when you're in silent mind, again, it's quiet. There's no thoughts, no reaching. Thoughts may come in and they could be intuitive. They could be something from your subconscious mind answering a question or solving a problem for you. But you're going to gain control over those thoughts by not letting them just run everywhere all the time and wreak havoc on you. So there are different ways you can do this. Obviously, the traditional way is meditation, and we'll talk about my techniques for meditation, but also, as I was saying, like focused attention exercises, intentional awareness. So that would be like the old saying, be where your feet are. So if you're answering an email, be answering the email. If you're watching the show, don't be multitasking. If you're chopping vegetables in the kitchen, just be focusing on the vegetables and the smell of the food and, exactly what you're doing with that knife. Be focused where you are. So people are like, I don't have time to meditate. Well, whatever you're doing, it's that old Buddhist saying when they say, like, chop wood, carry water. But when they were doing those singular tasks, they weren't thinking about other things. So they were learning to meditate through their everyday daily tasks by dedicating your attention to that task at a time. When I think when people are in love with each other, they're focused on each other, they're talking to each other, they're not thinking about anything else. That in love feeling when you're just in absorbed in that great conversation with someone. It doesn't even have to be someone you're in love with. It could be your kid or your best friend, but you're just in that conversation and the rest of the world just melts away. That is the same thing as this laser focus. You're not paying attention to outside distractions. You're not paying attention to your phone pinging. Okay, so these are my three methods for learning to meditate. So you can quiet your mind, you can calm anxiety, and we're going to do them together here. And I really invite you to do this. It's going to feel like forever. But I want you to do these 2-minute meditations with me because this is exactly how I learned to meditate. And so it'll take 6 minutes of your day today to learn this. Okay, so this is the first technique that I was taught. I was going to Unity Church in Tustin. Marge Britt was the minister, and she said every Sunday when we'd show up, she said, we're going to sit in the silence for 2 minutes. And I know if I just tell you to go do this, you're not going to do it. So I'm going to have you guys do it now. And I'm going to set the timer. And I want you to just put down your pens, put down your phones or whatever. And I'm just going to invite you to sit in the silence for 2 minutes. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Just keep letting those thoughts pass by you. You're not going to give them attention. And so this is how I tell you to do it, is that if a thought comes up, you're either going to just let it go by or you're going to like you would to a child, but with no emotion, not getting angry. If a thought comes up like, oh, I need to pick up, eggs from the store on the way home, just be like, shh. Or even say to that thought, not now, not now, not now, and then let it go. So if the thoughts come up and they're going to, you don't engage, you can shush them, you can say not now. But I did this once a week for several months and it allowed me to start learning to meditate. So let's try it together. Right. So I'm going to set my timer and I want you guys to close your eyes. This. All right, so go ahead, close your eyes, and I want you to sit in the silence with me. Guys. So I'm going to tell you what I observed. If you want to drop into the chat what you observed, um, can't describe to you. It is the most amazing feeling to me when I meditate. I'm fully aware. I hear my breathing. You may have noticed your breathing. I can see the back of my eyelids. I've got this, bright light here. So I can see the back of my eyelids. I can hear my breathing, but I don't know how better to describe it, but I'm not thinking. I'm aware, I'm observing, but no thoughts are going through my mind. You can observe your breathing without a commentary, like, oh, am I sitting up straight or whatever? It is that stillness and of that observing without any inner dialogue. Yes, you're breathing very few interruptions. That's right. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a second similar technique. So once I started doing this with at Unity Church, it evolved into my own version of this. So I'm going to offer that to you. And I actually have this as if you want to do this on your own again on YouTube, if you go to my YouTube channel, I put in the beginning of the chat, if you scroll up, you'll see resources. You can copy and paste my YouTube channel, but I have something, it's a 3 minute and 33-second video, and it's how to meditate using this blue sky method. I also teach the night sky method. The problem with the night sky method is you might fall asleep to it, but basically, similarly, instead of just seeing the back of your eyeballs, you're going to imagine that you're floating in blue sky. So if some of you have heights issues or something like that, or you did a lot of shushing, okay, that's fine. That's where you're going to start. That is how you start. Just make sure it's kind, loving shushing, like shh, shh, not angry or anything. Because you don't, the minute you have an emotion, you're going to get distracted. The whole idea of meditation is to be like Buddha. No emotion, calm, right? So that's what you're shooting for. Okay. So blue sky method. Try this with me again, guys. Please do this. You're gonna just imagine you're floating peacefully in a vast, clear blue sky, or maybe you're standing on the top of a building looking out at blue sky if that feels safer to you. And when thoughts come up, this time you could shush them if you need to. You can tell them not now, but you could also just imagine them like clouds, like you're going to observe the thought, but you're not going to give it any energy. You're not going to engage with it. It's like someone says something in the room and you hear it, but you don't say a word. You don't respond. You don't answer. You don't engage with the thought. So that's part of this process is detaching from that mental chatter. So let's try this again and just imagine beautiful blue sky in front of your face and you're just standing in it or floating in it, whatever feels more comfortable to you. And as the thoughts come up, if they do, you're just going to let them float by. Or something else that I've done, I just remembered this, is that if a thought is like really in my face, I imagine exhaling and I'm just going to push the thoughts out to the edge of my horizon, my mental horizon. You're going to exhale out and just push them out to the periphery of your mind. So it's like you're not trying to get rid of them or transmute them in any way. It's just let them go by. Or if they come in and they really want your attention, push them out, push them away. And then it's like you're clearing the clouds so you can see that blue sky again. Okay, so let's try this. Go ahead and do the blue sky now. I promise you it is worth it. Take 2 minutes today and do this with me, okay? So now you might have noticed in just 2 minutes, floating in blue sky or thinking about blue sky, you may have noticed your body taking some deep breaths. You may have noticed your breathing instantly slows down just as quickly as you can put yourself into fight or flight with an anxious thought. Oppositely, your subconscious also responds to positive visualization. So you might have noticed your breathing slows down, and it only took a few seconds, and you notice your breathing slowing down, taking deeper breaths. You may have noticed your shoulders dropping. And so, what's beyond just breaking the cycle of anxiety? Why do we want to learn to meditate? To quiet your mind. But here's the best part, too. If you are an athlete, if you do exercise, if you're in high stress meetings all day, then something else that happens here is that you are able to, okay, Matt, you thought you were going to fall asleep. Yes. Okay. So listen, I'm glad you brought that up. When you start to experience the gap between your thoughts, it is going to feel extremely relaxing. Yes, you can definitely ask a question. Okay. The second one. Yeah. So drop your questions in, Matt. I'm reading that right now. But listen, I remember when I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and he literally addicted to thinking. We are addicted to thinking. We're addicted to it because we think more thinking is going to produce more answers, will be more productive. But what we're saying here is that there's this point of no return where you're becoming less productive because of that thinking. And when I read that part in the book, I remember I just put the book down on my lap and I fell into a sleep that happened instantly. It was like my mind understood that it was okay to not be constantly thinking and going at it mentally and analyzing and being productive in my day, that this quietness is a form of productivity. And what I was going to say too before I answer you, Matt, is that if you're aware of the whole concept of after exercise shifting as quickly as you can out of sympathetic mode into parasympathetic. Sympathetic is fight or flight. So when you're working out, when you do a cold plunge, when you do a super hot sauna, you are putting your body into a level of fight or flight. You're spiking cortisol. And so when I worked with Alex Keuchel last year, who's a health coach and he does work for pro football teams, the first thing he taught me was before you even leave the gym, you need to shift back into parasympathetic mode. And he taught breathing exercises. Um, but I like doing this because you can do it anywhere. You could go to your car, you could go sit on the mat in the gym after a stressful meeting. But basically, if you don't learn to do this, you're just keeping your body in this low level fight or flight all day. And then what kind of hormones are you creating in your body? So even beyond anxiety, just flipping your body back into hormonal optimization can come from just doing 2 minutes like this. And so let me just go back up here before I give you the third technique here. And I hope I'm selling these techniques to you. Um, explaining them optimally. Okay, so the first one I had a question. Let's see. I started feeling my heartbeat and then thinking about my heartbeat. No, that's okay. You're aware of your heartbeat. So the question is now, can you be aware of your heartbeat without giving a dialogue to it? It's like, yep, you're aware of it. You're observing your heartbeat, but you're not thinking about it. You can observe something without adding your own little commentary to it. It's like you can see something, a cloud go by, but you're not adding to it. So yeah, I think that was actually a success for you, Matt. So high five. Yes, and the thoughts were, that's exactly what you want, Kathy. That's exactly it. They're just floating by. So you guys are getting it. I'm so excited. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's do the third technique, and you just pick one of these. And here's the thing, if you did this every day, just start with 2 minutes a day. Set the bar low, do it for 2 minutes a day. Just set your timer so it goes off and pick whichever one you like, just sitting in the silence. Um, the alternative to that is you may have heard people just imagine in their mind, like staring at a candle flame. Um, some people do the om. I don't really like that because I feel like that takes effort for me to do it. I have to think about doing it. Um, so you can do this blue sky method. And then the third method, I call it the blank screen technique. So um, I teach this again to people and when they're doing past life regression, instead of trying to think about what your past life was or think about what the root of a problem is in hypnotherapy, it's actually teaching you how to quiet your mind and let the story come to you, let the information come to you. So imagine this. Most of us listening today have been in a movie theater. You have sat there and the lights go out. They have the previews, the lights go out. It's quiet. There's a silence in the room for just a moment, and you're looking at the blank screen. And if you can remember that feeling, wait for it, wait for it. You're waiting for the movie to come on. And there's that 5 to 10 seconds when you're not thinking. You're anticipating, you're waiting for the start of the movie, and you're waiting for it. That's the space that you can get your mind to. It's just another way to describe this somatically and mentally, I guess, is just imagining that you're sitting in a movie theater and waiting for the movie to come on, but it doesn't come on. And so let's try this one. And then what my hope is that you're going to do this. And then eventually what you can do, let me say right now while I remember it is once you've done 2 minutes and you can do 2 minutes, then you're going to bump up to 3 minutes. And then once you can do 3 minutes regularly, you would bump up to 4 minutes. The reason that a lot of people fail at meditation is because someone's telling you got to start with 30 minutes a day. Fail. You're going to fail. You're going to just drastically feel like I can't do this. So you start small. You start with 2 minutes. Once you can do 2 minutes, once or twice a day, then do 3 minutes. And even just that, if that's all you ever do, you're going to hopefully start to feel like immediately that you're able to shift your mind, your body out of sympathetic to parasympathetic and just use that as a technique. All right, so let's try the movie theater technique. You're going to imagine you're sitting in a nice, comfortable chair in a movie theater. It's completely dark. You can barely see the movie screen. It's completely silent, and and the feeling you want to have is you're waiting for something to come on the screen, but nothing comes on the screen. It's just this feeling of silent, observing, receptive, but no thoughts. Okay, so let's try that. Let me see if there was something somebody else wanted to say. Let's the movie theater technique. Tell you, when I was sitting here doing this, I heard a loud engine outside. Then I heard a dog bark. So I was aware of those sounds. And but I just didn't add any narrative to them. So that would be it too, is you're going to observe what's around you. You're going to hear the refrigerator, the ice maker kick on, you're going to hear things. But the difference is that you're just not adding anything to it. So if you see a beautiful woman walk by in a red dress, it would be like, I love her dress, or, oh, I don't like her hair, or whatever. Like typically people's minds are constantly commenting on what they see. So instead, oh, you're going to basically observe without adding any commentary to it. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about this is what I call the ticker tape method. So if you do have thoughts that are coming in, imagine that those thoughts are going to slow down, and it's the space between your thoughts where intuition is going to come in. But in order for intuition to come in, which is the last part of our discussion today, is you've got to give yourself permission to let there be quietness, no thought, no commentary between your thoughts. So if a thought comes up like, oh, I got to remember to, um, you know, pick up or drop my tax forms off today, then it's like that thought comes by, but then go back to the space between the thoughts. So used to like a ticker tape, like the where they used to have the Fox News having the stock prices go by. It's like that goes by, but there's some other part of you that's not engaging and paying attention to the spaces between those thoughts. Okay. All right. So now let me go on to, let's see. Dorothy, I was there in total darkness, but I kept anticipating the start of the movie, the light and the sounds. Um, yes. Yep. Just keep working on it and pick whichever one you like. There's a fourth technique I call the night sky technique, which is similar to the blue one, to the day sky. And I use that one at night. And man, I will fall asleep like that doing the night sky technique. So the outcome of the quieter mind is you will notice that when you're in that state, your thoughts slow down. There's gaps between your thoughts is what you're shooting for. And then the more that you can facilitate, foster the mind slowing down, the quiet mind, the observing mind, that tide, instead of going out, the tide stops. You're in the turn of the tide. There's no movement. And then eventually what happens is you will just open up an amazing level of intuition when you can do these things that I've been teaching you today. It just takes this, and it's it's remarkable. So that calm and quiet opens the door to your intuition. And so you're going to cultivate that mindfulness, obviously reducing anxiety, embracing that space between your thoughts. And then intuition is what flows to the observing mind when that mental noise and the interference is gone. So let me see here. I think at the end of this. Um, okay. So with this, I'm going to teach some more techniques next week for different ways, again, to be clearing your mind of the mental chatter. And I'll just continue to give you meditation techniques and guided hypnosis techniques. And I did drop a series of resources in there. If you want to work with me, watch my YouTube content. I've got some guided hypnosis recordings on there. You can join my modern intuition group. So I teach intuition not as quieting your mind so you can predict fate. I teach it as a way to be guided to the destiny that you choose. So I believe in selecting timelines, and then you're using your intuition to navigate you to that. Does anybody have any questions today? You can unmute yourself. You can um, turn on your video if you like, or you can just drop questions in the chat. And I'd love to hear if this felt useful to you, if it felt confusing. If it was hogwash, you can tell me that too. But it is how I learned to start meditating, and it was that simple. Anybody else dropping something in there? But like I said, I couldn't, this was, I tried to give you as much today as I could, but I will be continuing these weekly trainings, and we'll just kind of build upon them because there's lots of different ways you can learn to quiet your mind. And so we'll be teaching those. And then from there, this is the first step. So I will say too, I'm going to be doing a workshop on ways to bypass your logical mind. So this was the first step. You got to quiet your mind to let information come in. And then where a lot of people struggle is, oh, is that information intuitive? Is it accurate? Is it just my fearful mind or whatever? And so the next workshops, typically I always have them on Wednesdays. So you'll be on my email list, Meredith, and you'll get those notifications. You can also join my Modern Intuition group on Facebook. Just look for Modern Intuition. And I also teach these techniques, this intuition. If you're in my Transformation Experts, which is my group for the American Hypnosis and Coaching Academy training, I'm going to tell you as a coach and hypnotherapist, when my intuition went up and when I was allowing intuition to come to me, it was a game changer with my clients because sometimes we don't have all the information. And what I would notice is literally like I'd be sitting there listening and I would feel this sensation of like energy on the scalp of my head. And then I would get what I call a download. So yes, I will post the recording as well. And if you signed up for this today, you'll be on my email list. So you'll get all my workshops as I announce them. So thank you guys so much. And if you want to, it would help me if you just post in the chat, like what was your biggest takeaway today? Yes, you can. Are the sessions live? Yes, just like today. Can we listen to the recording? Yes. So typically, if you join my YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube and subscribe to Rebecca Taylor Shaw, I drop most of my videos there for people as well. So if you do that, that's another way to follow me and get the updates. And I will send them out to the email list too as replays. So either way. Um, yeah. Okay, great. Transitioning before leaving the gym. Yes. Isn't that powerful? So think about this. If you don't transition before leaving the gym, and I'm not going to take credit for understanding this or the big epiphany with it, but it came from super peptide physical fitness guru Alex Keuchel. He said, if you don't do these types of things before you leave the gym, then you're just keeping your cortisol spiked for another 15 minutes to several hours for no good reason. Your body needs to become what we call nervous system flexible. And so what that means is like the quicker you shift back into parasympathetic with just a 2 minute, do your stretching and visualize just floating in blue sky or in the movie theater or sitting in the silence for those few minutes, then you do that flip. And then the more and more you do that, it's like where people are able to get their heart rate down really quickly after exercise. You're getting your mind down very quickly after exercise. And this is great because then when you have stressful events, it's like, are you going to hang with that stress and anxiety? If someone just cuts you off on the highway, you have something scary that almost happens. Is your body going to stay in fight or flight for an hour, or can you shift it back? And that's that nervous system flexibility. I actually do have a complete YouTube video on that exact topic as well, if you want to check that out on YouTube. Okay. Like the gazelle, that's right. Simply shaking itself after being chased by a cheetah. You're absolutely right. That's what animals do in the wild. They do that somatic shake to get back to baseline, so to speak. Yeah. The movie theater, it makes me respect the silence, anticipation more than keeping, yes, the community space. I try to show myself gratitude for completing tasks. Yes, I love that, Kathy. So something I'll say to myself, um, similarly, you have a meeting or you get to work on time and there's no accidents. That went well. Acknowledging what went well. I mean, we typically don't, people get to the end of the day and they'll gripe about what didn't go well. But telling yourself after every segment of your day, that went well, then you're seeding your mind through cognitive bias to be looking for more things to go well because you're acknowledging what goes well. So, yes, celebrating our wins is really just those simple things are so powerful. And if you do these kinds of things every day, it just stacks up and it becomes your way of being. Okay, so we were at the end of our hour. Thank you guys again so much for being here and have a great week and watch for some new training coming your way. Take care. Love to you all. Bye.